The air was thick with the scent of roses and anticipation, the kind that only a wedding could conjure. I stood in the corner of the bustling venue, my hands smoothing the soft lavender fabric of my dress, chosen carefully for my son Daniel's big day. At 72, I'd seen my share of life's highs and lows, but nothing prepared me for the sting of this moment. My son, my only child, was marrying Clary, a woman who, until recently, I thought I knew. The venue glowed with golden chandeliers and delicate white lilies draped over every surface. Guests laughed, their voices a warm hum, but I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. Claire had been distant for weeks, her smiles tight, her words clipped when we spoke. I chalked it up to wedding stress. But now, watching her glide through the crowd in her ivory gown, I sensed something darker. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, avoided mine. "Mom, you look beautiful," Daniel had said earlier, his grin wide as he adjusted his tie. His hazel eyes, so like his father's, sparkled with joy. I wanted to warn him, to pull him aside and ask why Claire's warmth toward me had faded. But I didn't. I couldn't bear to dim his happiness. Instead, I smiled back, my heart heavy with unspoken questions. As the ceremony approached, Claire's maid of honor, a bubbly woman named Tessa, approached me. "Mrs. Harper," Claire asked if you could help with something in the bridal suite. "It's just a small thing before the vows." Her tone was light, but her eyes darted away, and I felt a prickle of unease. Still, I nodded, clutching my small purse, and followed her through the venue's winding halls. The bridal suite was a vision of elegant mirrors framed in gold, a chaise lounge draped in silk, and Claire's wedding dress hanging like a ghost in the corner. Tessa gestured toward the attached bathroom. "Claire needs you to check something in there. She'll be right in." I stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind me. The bathroom was pristine, all marble and soft lighting, but something felt off. I turned to ask Tessa what exactly Claire needed, but the door wouldn't budge. I jiggled the handle, then pounded on it, my pulse quickening. "Tessa." "Hello?" No answer. My knocks grew louder, echoing in the small space, but the silence outside was deafening. Panic crept in, cold and sharp. I pressed my ear to the door, straining to hear anything music. Laughter, the hum of the wedding continuing without me. My fingers fumbled with the lock, but it was no use. I was trapped. Claire's voice, low and deliberate, echoed in my memory. "You don't need to be at the ceremony, Mrs. Harper. It's better this way." Had she said that weeks ago? Or was my mind playing tricks? The words felt real now, cutting through the haze of my confusion. I sank onto the edge of the bathtub, my hands trembling. Why would Claire do this? I'd welcomed her into our family, cooked her favorite meals, shared stories of Daniel's childhood. I thought we were close, or at least on our way there. But the truth was undeniable. She wanted me out of the way. The question was why. My thoughts raced back to the past few months. Claire had been charming at first, her laughter bright, her affection for Daniel undeniable. But small moments stood out now, her irritation when I offered to help with wedding plans. The way she'd changed the subject when I mentioned Daniel's late father, my Henry. I'd assumed she was overwhelmed. But maybe it was more. Maybe she saw me as an obstacle, a reminder of a life Daniel had before her. I stood, my resolve hardening. I wasn't just Daniel's mother. I was Eleanor Harper, a woman who'd survived loss, raised a son alone, and built a life from the ashes of grief. I wasn't going to let Claire erase me from this day. The bathroom window was small, high on the wall, but it was my only chance. I dragged a stool from the corner, climbed onto it with shaky legs, and pushed the window open. The warm June air rushed in, carrying the distant sound of music. The drop to the ground was farther than I liked, but I had no choice. I tossed my purse out first, then gripped the window frame, my heart pounding. At 72, I wasn't as spry as I once was, but desperation gave me strength. I swung one leg over, then the other, scraping my knee against the rough exterior. Pain shot through me, but I bit my lip and dropped to the grass below, landing harder than I'd hoped. I lay there for a moment, catching my breath, the world spinning. The wedding was happening without me, but I wasn't done yet. I grabbed my purse, dusted off my dress, and started walking. The venue was on the edge of town, and I knew a gas station was nearby. I needed a phone, a way to call for help. As I limped along the road, my mind churned with questions. What was Claire hiding? And why go to such lengths to keep me away? The gas station's neon sign glowed in the distance, a beacon of hope. My legs ached, but I pushed forward, fueled by a mix of anger and determination. I'd spent years protecting Daniel, and I wasn't about to let Claire or anyone tear us apart. Not today. Not ever. The gas station was a small, fluorescent-lit haven, its shelves stocked with candy bars and motor oil. The clerk, a young man with a bored expression, barely looked up as I stumbled in, my dress streaked with dirt and my silver hair disheveled. I must have been a sight, but I didn't care. My heart was still racing from the fall, my knee throbbing. But I had one goal: get help. Do you have a phone I can use? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. The clerk pointed to a payphone in the corner, and I fumbled through my purse for change. My fingers shook as I dialed 911. The operator's calm voice a lifeline in the storm of my thoughts. This is Eleanor Harper, I said, my words spilling out. I'm at the gas station on Route 12. I was locked in a bathroom at my son's wedding, and I need help. The operator asked questions, her tone professional but kind, and I explained as best I could Claire. The locked door. My escape. I need to get back to the venue. Something's wrong, and I need to be there for my son. Within minutes, a police cruiser pulled up, its lights flashing silently. Officer Ramirez, a woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, stepped out. Mrs. Harper, you reported an incident at the Willow Creek venue. I nodded, recounting the story again, my voice catching as I described Claire's coldness. The locked door, and my climb out the window. Ramirez listened intently, her notepad filling with details. We'll head to the venue, she said, opening the cruiser door for me. Stay with me, and we'll sort this out. Gratitude washed over me, mingled with dread. What would I find when I returned? Would Daniel believe me? Would Claire's mask finally slip? The drive back was a blur, the venue's elegant facade coming into view too soon. The parking lot was packed with cars, the wedding in full swing. Music spilled out, and through the windows, I saw guests dancing, oblivious to the drama unfolding. Ramirez radioed for backup, her voice calm but firm. We're dealing with a potential unlawful confinement, she said into her radio. The words hit me like a punch. Unlawful confinement. It sounded so clinical, so far removed from the betrayal I felt. We entered through a side door, avoiding the main hall where the reception was underway. Ramirez led me to a quiet office where the venue manager, a flustered man named Greg, was waiting. Mrs. Harper, are you okay? He asked, his eyes wide. I nodded, though I was anything but. I need to see my son, I said, and I need to know why Claire did this. Greg hesitated, glancing at Ramirez. The ceremony went off without a hitch, but Claire mentioned you weren't feeling well and had left early. My stomach twisted. So that was her story. She'd planned this, counting on my absence to go unnoticed. But why? What did she gain by locking me away? Ramirez's radio crackled, and she stepped aside to speak with her partner. I took the moment to steady myself. Gripping the edge of a desk, Daniel was out there, dancing with his new wife, unaware of her deception. I pictured his face, so full of love for Claire, and my heart ached. I'd raised him to trust, to see the good in people. But had I left him vulnerable to someone like her? Ramirez returned, her expression grim. We've got another officer at the main entrance. Let's find your son and MS. Claire, we'll do this discreetly, but I need you to stay calm. Mrs. Harper. I nodded, though my emotions were a tangled messenger. Fear, and a fierce need to protect Daniel. We moved toward the reception hall, the music growing louder. The crowd parted slightly as we entered, and I spotted Daniel at the center of the dance floor, his arm around Claire. She was radiant, her smile perfect, but I saw the flicker in her eyes when she noticed me. For a moment, our gazes locked, and I saw it fear, quickly masked by a forced laugh. Mom. Daniel's voice cut through the noise as he broke away from Claire and hurried toward me. Where were you? Claire said you weren't feeling well. His concern was genuine, but it only deepened my resolve. I glanced at Ramirez, who gave a slight nod. Daniel, I said, my voice trembling but firm. We need to talk. Somewhere private. Claire's smile faltered, and she stepped closer, her hand on Daniel's arm. Eleanor, you're back. We were so worried. Her voice was syrupy, but I wasn't fooled. Not anymore. Ramirez stepped forward, her badge glinting under the chandeliers. MS. Claire, we'd like to ask you a few questions about an incident earlier today. The room seemed to hush, guests turning to watch. Claire's face paled, but she recovered quickly, laughing lightly. I'm not sure what you mean. Officer, this is a wedding, can't this wait? No, I said, my voice cutting through her act. It can't. Daniel looked between us, confusion clouding his face. I hated that he was caught in the middle, but I couldn't let Claire's deception stand. Not when it had gone this far. The reception hall, once alive with celebration, now hummed with tension. Guests whispered, their eyes darting between me, Claire, and Officer Ramirez. Daniel stood frozen, his brow furrowed, caught between his mother and his bride. I wanted to reach for him, to pull him away from the woman who'd locked me away. But I knew words, not actions, would unravel this now. Daniel, I said softly, stepping closer. I didn't leave because I was sick. I was locked in the bathroom of the bridal suite. I had to climb out a window to get here. His eyes widened, searching mine for the truth. Claire's laugh, sharp and nervous, broke the silence. Eleanor, that's ridiculous. Why would anyone do that? You must be confused. Ramirez raised a hand, her voice calm but authoritative. MS. Claire, we have a report of unlawful confinement. Mrs. Harper's account is serious, and we need to investigate. Let's step into the office to discuss this. Claire's smile tightened, her fingers gripping Daniel's arm. This is absurd, she said, her voice rising. It's our wedding day. Daniel pulled his arm free, his gaze shifting to Claire. Is it true? He asked, his voice low, almost pleading. I saw the doubt flicker in his eyes, and it broke my heart. He wanted to believe her, to hold on to the love he thought they shared. But I also saw the man I'd raised, one who valued truth, even when it hurt. I don't know what she's talking about, Claire said, her tone defensive now. Eleanor, you've been under stress. Maybe you locked the door by accident. Her words were smooth, but they didn't land. The guests around us were silent, watching the drama unfold like a scene from a play. Ramirez gestured toward the office. Let's continue this privately. Claire hesitated, then nodded, her composure cracking. Daniel followed, his shoulders tense, and I trailed behind, my heart pounding. The office was small, cluttered with papers and a flickering fluorescent light. Ramirez's partner, Officer Chun, joined us, his notepad ready. Mrs. Harper, Ramirez began. Please walk us through what happened. I recounted every detail of the conversation with Tessa. The locked door, the climb through the window, the walk to the gas station. My voice shook at times, but I kept going, fueled by the need to protect Daniel. Claire sat stiffly, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her eyes avoiding mine. When I finished, Ramirez turned to Claire. Do you have anything to add? Claire's lips parted, but no words came at first. Then she leaned forward, her voice measured. I don't know why Eleanor would say this. I asked Tessa to check on her because she seemed unwell earlier. Maybe the door jammed. These old venues. You know, she trailed off, her excuse flimsy even to her own ears. Daniel's face darkened. Tessa, he said, turning to Ramirez. Where is she? She was with Mom last. Ramirez nodded to Chun, who stepped out to find the maid of honor. The room felt smaller, the air heavy with unspoken truths. I wanted to tell Daniel everything me suspicions, the coldness I'd felt from Claire, but I held back. He needed to see it for himself. Chun returned with Tessa, who looked pale and nervous. Ms. Tessa, Ramirez said. Mrs. Harper says you led her to the bridal suite and asked her to enter the bathroom. Can you confirm this? Tessa's eyes darted to Claire, then back to the officers. Yes. I did. Claire asked me to bring her there. She said it was for a surprise. A surprise. I snapped, unable to stay silent. Locking me in was a surprise. Tessa flinched, her hands twisting together. I didn't know she'd locked the door. Claire just said to get you there. I thought it was for something sweet, like a gift or, I don't know. Claire's face hardened. Tessa, don't lie. I never said anything about locking anyone in. But Tessa shook her head, tears welling. You told me to make sure she stayed in there. You said it was important. The room went still, Daniel's breath catching audibly. He looked at Claire, his voice barely a whisper. Why? Claire's mask slipped, her eyes flashing with something like fear or guilt. This is a misunderstanding, she insisted, but her voice wavered. Ramirez leaned forward. We'll need to speak with you further. Ms. Claire. And we'll be checking the bathroom for evidence. She stood, signaling the end of the conversation for now. As we left the office, Daniel grabbed my hand, his grip tight. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. His voice broke, and I pulled him into a hug, tears stinging my eyes. It's okay, sweetheart, I whispered. We'll figure this out. But as I held him, I knew this was only the beginning. Claire's actions weren't just a prank, they were deliberate, calculated. And I needed to know why. Back in the reception hall, the mood had shifted. Guests murmured, their earlier joy replaced by curiosity and unease. Daniel stayed close to me, his face a mix of confusion and betrayal. Claire had been escorted to a separate room by Officer Chun for further questioning, and Ramirez was inspecting the bridal suite with the venue manager. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief that the truth was surfacing, dread at what it might cost Daniel. Mom, why would she do this? Daniel asked, his voice low as we sat at a quiet table in the corner. The band played on, but the music felt distant, like a memory. I took his hand, searching for the right words. I don't know yet, Daniel, but I felt her pulling away for weeks. Something's been off. and I think she didn't want me here to see it." He shook his head, his jaw tight. "I thought she loved me. I thought." His voice trailed off, and I saw the pain in his eyes, the kind that comes from questioning everything you thought was true. I wanted to shield him from it, but I couldn't. Not anymore. Ramirez returned, her expression unreadable. "Mrs. Harper, we found the bathroom door's lock was tampered with. It wasn't an accident, it was set to lock from the outside only. We also found a small tool nearby, likely used to secure it." My stomach churned. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment act. It was planned. "What about Claire?" I asked. "She's sticking to her story," Ramirez said. "But Tessa's statement contradicts her. We're looking into Claire's background now. Anything you can tell us about her? Anything unusual?" I hesitated, sifting through memories. "She was always private about her past," I said. "Never talked about family. Said they were estranged. And she got defensive when I asked about her job. She said she was between opportunities, but never explained." Daniel looked up, his eyes narrowing. "She told me her parents passed away years ago, and she said she left her job to focus on the wedding." His voice hardened. "Was that a lie too?" Ramirez made a note. "We'll check into it. For now, stay here. We'll keep you updated." As Ramirez walked away, I noticed a woman hovering nearby, her face familiar. It was Margaret, a family friend who'd known Daniel since he was a boy. She approached, her expression worried. "Eleanor, I heard what happened. Are you okay?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I was. "Margaret, did you notice anything odd about Claire today?" She frowned, glancing around. I didn't want to say anything earlier, but during the ceremony, she kept looking at a man in the back row. I thought it was strange she seemed nervous, not like a bride should be. My heart skipped a beat. "What man?" I asked. Margaret described him: tall, dark hair, late 30s, wearing a suit that looked out of place. Too casual for a wedding. I turned to Daniel. "Did you invite anyone like that?" He shook his head, his face pale. "No. I don't know him." The pieces were falling into place, but the picture was still blurry. Who was this man? And what did he have to do with Claire's actions? I squeezed Daniel's hand. "We'll find out, sweetheart. I promise." Ramirez returned with an update. "We've identified the man Margaret described. He's not on the guest list, and he left before we could question him. We're running his description through our database." She paused, her eyes softening. "Mrs. Harper, you're a tough woman. Climbing out that window. Most people your age wouldn't have made it." I managed a small smile. I've had to be tough for Daniel. He looked at me, his eyes glistening. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have seen something was wrong." I shook my head. "You couldn't have known. But we're together now, and we'll get through this." The night wore on, the reception continuing in a surreal haze. Guests tried to keep the mood light, but the whispers followed us. I stayed by Daniel's side, my mind racing. Claire's actions weren't just about Methy, were part of something bigger. A secret she was desperate to keep. And I was determined to uncover it. Not just for myself, but for my son. The wedding reception dragged on, but the joy had drained from it. Daniel and I sat in the corner, the weight of Claire's betrayal heavy between us. The police were still questioning her, and Tessa had been taken aside again, her tearful confessions unraveling Claire's lies. I kept replaying Margaret's words about the mysterious man in the back row. Who was he? And why had Claire been so nervous? Ramirez approached us again, her face grim. "We've got something," she said, lowering her voice. "The man Margaret described matches someone in our system, a private investigator named Paul Grayson. He's been linked to cases involving fraud and blackmail." We're trying to track him down now. Fraud and blackmail. The words hit like a hammer. Was Claire caught up in something criminal? Or was she the one pulling the strings? Daniel's hands clenched into fists. What does this have to do with Claire? He asked, his voice raw. Ramirez hesitated. We don't know yet, but we're digging into her financial records and communications. Mrs. Harper, you mentioned she was vague about her job. Did she ever mention anything about money troubles or debts? I thought back, my mind sifting through conversations. She always seemed comfortable. I said, expensive clothes, a nice car. But she never talked about where the money came from. I assumed. I trailed off, realizing how little I'd questioned her lifestyle. Daniel's face darkened. She told me she had savings from her last job. I believed her. Ramirez nodded. We'll know more soon. For now, stay here and try to keep calm. Easier said than done. Daniel's world was crumbling, and I felt helpless watching him grapple with the truth. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away, standing abruptly. I need to talk to her, he said, his voice shaking with anger. I need to hear it from her. I stood too, my heart racing. Daniel, let the police handle it. She's not going to tell you the truth. But he was already moving toward the office where Claire was being held. I followed, my legs aching from the earlier ordeal. But I wasn't letting him face her alone. Inside the office, Claire sat with Officer Chen, her face pale but defiant. When she saw Daniel, her eyes softened, a calculated shift. Daniel, thank God you're here. This is all a misunderstanding. Your mother's confused, and the police are blowing it out of proportion. Her voice was pleading, but I saw the cracks in her facade. Stop, Daniel said, his voice cold. Did you lock my mother in the bathroom? Did you tell Tessa to do it? Claire's mouth opened, then closed, her eyes darting to Chun. I didn't. I mean, it wasn't like that. The door must have jammed. Enough. Daniel's voice cracked like a whip. Tessa told the truth. Why? Claire, what were you hiding? For the first time, Claire looked cornered, her composure crumbling. She stood, her hands trembling. You don't understand. Daniel, I was protecting you. Protecting me, he shouted. By locking my mother away. By lying to me. I stepped forward, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. Claire, what were you afraid I'd see? Who was that man at the ceremony? Her eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought she'd break. But she clamped her mouth shut, turning to Chun. I want a lawyer. Ramirez entered, her phone in hand. We just got a hit on Claire's financials. Large transfers to an offshore account linked to Paul Grayson. We're bringing him in for questioning. Daniel staggered back, as if physically struck. Claire, what have you done? He whispered. She didn't answer, her silence louder than any confession. Ramirez gestured to Chun. Take her to the station. We'll continue this there. As Claire was led away, her eyes met mine, and I saw something near resignation. Whatever she'd been hiding, it was unraveling fast. Daniel sank into a chair, his face buried in his hands. I sat beside him, my heart breaking for the pain he was enduring. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, I said, my voice thick with tears. I didn't want this for you. He looked up, his eyes red. I should have listened to you. Mom, you tried to warn me. I shook my head. I didn't know either. But we'll get through this. Together. He nodded, leaning into me. And for the first time that night, I felt a flicker of hope. The truth was painful, but it was also freeing. And I'd be there for Daniel, no matter what came next. The police station was cold. its fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on the linoleum floor. Daniel and I sat in a small waiting area, the weight of the night pressing down on us. Claire was in an interrogation room, and Paul Grayson, the mysterious man from the ceremony, had been located and brought in. Ramirez promised answers soon, but waiting felt like torture. Daniel hadn't spoken much since we left the venue. His silence wasn't anger, it was grief. The kind that comes when someone you love shatters your trust. I wanted to fix it, to take away his pain. But all I could do was sit beside him, my hand resting on his arm. "We'll be okay," I said softly, though I wasn't sure who I was reassuring. Ramirez emerged, her expression tired but resolute. "We've got enough to piece it together," she said, sitting across from us. "Claire's been working with Grayson for months. He's a private investigator, but not the reputable kind. They were running a scam targeting wealthy families, staging relationships to gain access to assets. Claire's role was to get close to you, Daniel." Daniel's face paled. "Me? Why?" Ramirez sighed. "Your family's estate. Your mother's house. Your savings. The inheritance from your father. Claire's been funneling money to Grayson through offshore accounts. Locking Mrs. Harper in the bathroom was likely a desperate move to keep her from noticing Grayson at the wedding or asking questions." I felt sick, the pieces clicking into place. Claire's charm, her vague past, her insistence on handling the wedding finance, it was all a lie. "She used me," Daniel said, his voice hollow. "She never loved me." I squeezed his arm, my heart aching. "She didn't deserve you, Daniel. You're worth more than her lies." Ramirez continued. "Grayson's talking. He's trying to cut a deal, and he's given us enough to charge Claire with fraud and unlawful confinement. We're still digging into other potential victims." She paused, her eyes softening. "Mrs. Harper, your quick thinking getting out of that bathroom helped us catch this before it went further." I nodded, but the victory felt hollow. My son's heart was broken, his wedding day ruined. Yet, as I looked at Daniel, I saw strength beneath the pain. He'd survived this, just as I'd survived my own losses. "What happens now?" I asked. "Claire will face charges," Ramirez said. "You'll both likely need to testify. But for now, go home. Rest. We'll handle the rest." Daniel stood, his movement slow, like a man carrying a weight he couldn't yet name. I followed, my own exhaustion settling in. At home, the house felt too quiet, the echoes of happier times lingering in the air. Daniel sat on the couch, staring at the wedding band on his finger. "I was going to give her everything," he said, his voice breaking. I sat beside him, pulling him into a hug. "You gave her your heart, Daniel. That's not a mistake, it's who you are. And I'm so proud of you for that." He leaned into me, tears falling silently. "I'm glad you were there, Mom. If you hadn't gotten out." He didn't finish, but I knew what he meant. I'd fought for him, just as I always had. "I'll always be here," I said, "no matter what." In the days that followed, the truth continued to unfold. Claire's scam was deeper than we'd imagined. With other victims coming forward, Daniel began the painful process of annulment. And though his heart was bruised, he was healing. We spent evenings together, talking, laughing, remembering the good before Claire. I saw glimpses of my son's resilience, the same strength that had carried me through my own trials. One night, as we sat on the porch, Daniel looked at me, his eyes clearer than they'd been in weeks. "You're my hero, Mom," he said. I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. "And you're mine, sweetheart." The stars above us shone brightly, a reminder that even after the darkest nights, light always returns. We'd faced betrayal, But we'd come through it together, unbroken and stronger than ever.